Regina had known Donald since they were children. Growing up in the same small town, they had seen each other almost every day at school, at the local park, or walking down Main Street. To everyone else, they were just friends, close as siblings, comfortable as two old shoes. But for Regina, it had always been a little more than that. Ever since she was young, Regina had admired Donald's warm laugh, his strong sense of justice, and the way he was always kind to everyone, even when it wasn't easy. As they grew older, that admiration became something deeper, something that made her heart beat faster whenever he was near. She tried to hide it, of course, but sometimes, late at night, she would let herself dream about what it might be like if Donald felt the same way. But she never dared to tell him. Donald was her best friend, and she didn't want to ruin that. And as they both grew older and high school ended, their paths seemed to take different directions. Donald joined the family business, helping his father in their small hardware store, while Regina went to the city for college, only coming back home on weekends and holidays. The distance changed things. Donald and Regina didn't see each other as often, but when they did, they always fell into the same easy rhythm, as if no time had passed. Regina would talk about her new life in the city, her classes, her friends. And Donald would share stories of the town, of neighbors and old friends and little dramas. But beneath it all, Regina's feelings for him remained, a secret she carried quietly, hidden behind laughter and familiar jokes. One winter, Regina came home for the holidays. The town was covered in snow, and there was a warmth in the air as everyone prepared for Christmas. Lights sparkled on every street corner, and holiday music played softly in every store. Regina had looked forward to coming home, but she didn't expect that this year would be any different from the ones before. She certainly didn't expect that she'd leave town with her life changed forever. On Christmas Eve, the town held its annual winter festival, a tradition that everyone in town loved. There was a small ice rink, stalls selling hot chocolate and homemade cookies, and a grand Christmas tree that glowed in the middle of the park. Regina met Donald at the festival, as they had every year since they were kids. "Hey, stranger." Donald grinned as he waved her over. He wore a red scarf, and his cheeks were pink from the cold. Regina felt her heart skip a beat, but she pushed the feeling down, smiling back. They walked through the festival together, talking and laughing, just like old times. They shared a cup of hot cocoa, and Donald playfully swiped whipped cream onto her nose, making her laugh and wipe it off, pretending to be annoyed. Later, they walked by the ice rink, watching as children skated in wobbly circles, their parents cheering them on from the sidelines. Donald nudged her. "Remember when we used to skate here?" he said with a laugh. "You were terrible." Regina rolled her eyes. "I wasn't that bad." "Oh, yes, you were," Donald teased. "Come on, let's see if you've improved." Before Regina could protest, he had taken her hand, leading her onto the ice. Her heart thumped wildly as they stepped onto the rink, hand in hand. She hadn't skated in years, and her legs felt shaky, but Donald held her steady, guiding her with a confidence that made her feel safe. They skated together, moving in a slow, gentle circle around the rink. At one point, Donald looked at her, his eyes soft, and for a moment, Regina felt as if they were the only two people in the world. The noise of the festival faded, and all she could hear was the sound of her own heartbeat, loud and steady, as they skated hand in hand under the sparkling lights. Finally, they stepped off the rink, laughing and breathless. "See, you didn't fall once," Donald said, still holding her hand. Regina smiled, her cheeks warm. She wanted to say something, to tell him how she felt, but the words got stuck in her throat. She looked away, trying to hide the blush on her face. "Hey," Donald said softly, tilting her chin back toward him. His eyes searched hers, and for a brief moment, there was something there, a look she had never seen before, something warm and intense and so much more than friendship. And then, before she could say a word, he leaned in and kissed her. It was gentle and sweet, like the soft snowfall around them, and for a moment, Regina forgot how to breathe. She had dreamed of this moment for so long, but she had never imagined it would feel like this. Like her whole world was shifting, like everything she had ever wanted was right here, in this single, perfect moment. When he pulled back, he looked at her, his eyes filled with something she couldn't quite name. I've wanted to do that for a long time, he murmured, almost as if he were afraid to say the words out loud. Regina's heart swelled with joy and relief, and she let out a shaky laugh. Me too, she whispered. She reached up, cupping his face with her gloved hands, and kissed him again, letting herself finally feel everything she had kept hidden for so long. They stood there for a long time, holding each other in the cold, as the festival continued around them. For Regina, nothing else mattered in that moment. Not the town, not the people, not even the years they had spent as just friends. All she cared about was the warmth of Donald's arms around her, the softness of his lips on hers, and the feeling that, for the first time in her life, she was exactly where she was meant to be. After that night, everything changed. They spent the rest of the holiday season together, talking about their future, their dreams, their fears. They walked through the snowy streets hand in hand, sharing quiet moments and whispered promises. Regina felt like she was seeing Donald in a new light, as if every conversation, every laugh, was something precious she had been waiting her whole life to find. As the new year approached, Regina knew that she would have to go back to the city, back to her studies, but the thought didn't fill her with the same sadness it once had. She knew that this time, things would be different. She and Donald had found something real, something worth holding onto, and she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. On New Year's Eve, they stood together under the stars, watching as fireworks lit up the sky. Donald held her close, his arm around her shoulders, and Regina rested her head against his chest, feeling his heartbeat strong and steady beneath her cheek. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" she asked, her voice soft. Donald looked down at her, his eyes warm and certain. "With you, always." As the clock struck midnight, he kissed her again, sealing a promise that they both knew was only the beginning. Regina felt her heart swell with happiness, knowing that, no matter where life took them, they would always have this love, this moment, this kiss that had changed everything. And for the first time in her life, Regina knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be.